All right, welcome to the Revolution. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur. So guys, on this show, we're trying to foment some sort of rebellion, revolution that is political in nature, and so that there doesn't have to be a physical one. Our government is captured by foreign interests, by corporate interests. Our system is built on bribery and corruption. And so we often interview Democrats who are challenging that system. Tonight, we're going to talk to an independent who's challenging that system. Well, he's a Democrat and now was forced into being an independent. But I'm also open to talking to any Republicans that are challenging the system, challenging incumbents, and not beholden to corporate donors or foreign country donors. So there are two steps to this that are absolutely critical. Number one, we have to make sure that we vote against most incumbents, almost all the incumbents. 94% of Congress takes money from the Israeli lobby. They serve the Israeli lobby. So unless you're absolutely positive that your incumbent does not take money from AIPAC or any of the Israeli lobby, or by the way, corporate PACs, you should vote against them. Experience in Congress is a massive mark against a politician. The reason mainstream media tells you experience is so important is because they love the corruption of the incumbents and they want to support that corruption. So experience in national Congress is actually a terrible thing to have, because that means that the giant donors gave money to those folks and they gave them votes back. And they now got return on investment, so then they re-upped and purchased them again and again and again. And the second thing is 2028, man. We need someone who is a populist left figure who is honest and is going to serve the American people. If we don't have someone honest win, this corruption is going to be the end of us. And I can't bear that thought. We have to get America back. We have to get our democracy back and our government back. So today, let's talk to someone about how they're trying to do that. So joining us now is Byron Sigcho Lopez. He's an alderman in Chicago and now running for Congress. Byron, welcome to the show.
Hey, Cenk, it's great to be here. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah, no problem. So Byron, first of all, did I get that right? Are you a Democratic alderman in Chicago?
That is right. I'm a Democratic committeeman, a representative in my ward. I'm also a Democratic socialist. Okay,
so obvious question for you: why not run as a Democrat for this congressional seat? Which I'm sure, of course, will open up to the whole drama that has ensued in that seat. So tell us about it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, because I was not even given my choice, as well as many other leaders within the 4th Congressional District. We wish Congressman Garcia the best in his retirement for personal reasons. But the reality is that when the decision was made to retire, the congressman used a machine tactic to deny the 4th Congressional District, the voters of our district that were heavily attacked by ICE agents just blocks away. They murdered Silverio Villegas Gonzalez. They shot Marimar Martinez 5 times. Another neighbor in Brighton Park in the southwest side of the city, fortunate to be alive. And when we were fencing for ourselves and we were left out completely without any help, and our community came together as this was the decision to retire happened, the congressman basically did not allow or did not tell anyone that he was planning to retire at the very last possible minute. Literally, he withdrew his petitions, and his chief of staff entered her petitions that during those same last weeks, during that time, Chicago Midway Bliss was in full-blown terrorizing our community, and they were behind closed doors plotting a succession and anointment plan that left only one person on the ballot, the congressman chief of staff. That is not only undemocratic, it's unethical. In other states like California, that is illegal. And today in the ballot, there's only one person. That's what I decided to challenge this, because if we learn anything from the presidential election that deliver a fascist for the White House, not having primaries, not having open conversations, not having debates is a disservice to our constituents and to the whole country. And that's what I decided to enter this race so that we can challenge the establishment, so that we can challenge AIPAC and those corporate billionaire pedophile class with ideas, with proposals. I served the city council for 7 years. We've been fighting this billionaire pedophile class that have been trying to buy our elections locally too. And we have shown that the power of the people is a lot bigger than the people in power.
So I'm gonna get to your stance in a second, but this is a dirty trick that I've now seen many times in 25, 30 years of covering politics. And unfortunately, a lot of times Democrats do it. So they do the old, 3-card Monte trick. Oh, what's behind, which cup is it under? Oh, yeah, too late, you can't challenge anyone else. I anoint the next thing. I mean, it's so ironic when we're doing no kings protests that a Democratic incumbent would say, I don't care about the voters. I'm not gonna give them an opportunity. I'm just gonna pick who the next congressperson is going to be. I heard a lot about how great Chuy Garcia was in the past. I never saw it. And then he does this dirty trick on his way out. But here's what I'm curious about. Patty Garcia, so the person he anointed, does she take corporate PAC money or Israeli lobby money?
We don't know yet. I mean, we haven't seen her in public. We haven't seen what she stands on. We haven't seen that she's denouncing, she's rejecting, and she's fighting against AIPAC and the corporate billionaire class. Is someone who we haven't seen at all. She did not. I didn't hear much of it during the primary. She was basically given the primary nomination, and there has not been very little debate on how actually so far. We are concerned about people who are in the Democratic establishment. Michael Sachs, Governor Pritzker, who also has been in the habit of buying seats and entering races, especially in the 4th Congressional District, a district that was heavily attacked, that has been heavily impacted by this big betrayal bill. And the effects in our community, it'll be a disservice if we allow a seat to be bought by corporate interests, including those who, and the governor just most recently was being apologetic about another billionaire who was in support of AIPAC and explaining why that was okay. Still, we yet to hear the governor to speak and denounce the genocide and to commit not to fund the genocide and the state of Israel. In our state, we continue to see bonds being bought to fund the genocide.
So since we don't know any of Patty Garcia's positions, but hey, she's been anointed. Anyways, I gotta ask about Chuy Garcia's positions because he's likely to appoint someone that's similar to him theoretically. I mean, whatever his theoretical positions are. So, and I genuinely don't know this. Did he take corporate PAC money or Israeli lobby money?
Well, I know that he did not take Israel money. What I tell you is that they're being questioning, especially in the last few years, in terms of funding for crypto. He was in the finance chair and then he stepped down. What I tell you is that one thing I do know is that we have not take AIPAC money. We have not take corporate money. We have been saying for years abolishing ICE, and not only saying it, but actively organizing on the ground to organize our community to dismantle this agency that is terrorizing Americans, not only immigrant neighbors. We've been the scapegoating for way too long. We haven't seen is a fighter on the ground that is fighting not to make anointments, but to build coalitions of working people. We've been building coalitions with the Muslim community. For instance, we are still sadly the only major city that has voted on a ceasefire in Chicago. We've been leading those efforts. We're being unapologetic, and we've been organizing with our neighbors on the ground, with all working people, to challenge the only minority destroying our country, the billionaire class. We also have been clear that for us to build a coalition, we cannot have a big tent when we, as immigrants or Palestinians or Muslims or trans communities, are always marginalized. So we have been building coalition to truly fight an establishment that is disconnected from the reality of working people.
So So Ro Khanna and Tim Kaine were on Meet the Press this weekend, and they had different views on potentially funding the war. So Khanna said absolutely not. Tim Kaine said, well, our troops are in harm's way, so we'll have to look at it. So where do you come out on that?
I mean, look, if you look at, we just heard the unhinged president to talk about that we cannot fund pre-K, that we cannot fund kindergarten, that we cannot really do anything for working families looking for pre-K. I'm a father of triplets. My kids are about to turn 4 years old. With the money that we have sent to bomb innocent little girls in Iran, for the war that we already have started because of Trump's pedophile plus obsession on destroying the Middle East, we could have funded, and this is a very clear symbol of the disconnection from reality. With the money that he's been already using to bomb innocent little girls in Iran, we could have funded childcare, pre-K childcare for every 4-year-old across the country. So when we see when we hear from these fascists about America first, we got to look what they're doing. Imagine the $42 billion that they gave to the sociopath Nazi president in Argentina. $42 billion that will have gone a long way to provide housing, to provide healthcare, to provide childcare for many Americans across the country. And I think that's what Americans are worried about. The narrative, the propaganda of American first has always been to put the interests of a handful of billionaires ahead of the interests of people at home and abroad.
But Byron, let's say you're in Congress and Hakeem Jeffries says, listen, we're against the war. We're gonna try different ways of stopping it, but the troops are in harm's way, so that's it. You gotta vote for funding. What do you say?
Well, we said that our troops are in harm's way because the irresponsible funding of illegitimate criminal wars. We are not going to, for our constituents are saying, we do not want any wars. We do not want a genocide in Gaza. We don't want another genocide in Iran or Congo or Sudan. No more wars. We want to truly focus on what the Republicans have promised, but yet never deliver, is to focus on our issues at home, to make sure that our American neighbors or communities in American cities across the country are suffering, so that we want to make sure that we fund the SNAP benefits, that we fund healthcare, education, that we fund an economy that works for everybody. Nobody signed on to put American lives at risk, and worse, to have all the inflation that they claim that they were in a battle. Look at the oil prices. These illegitimate criminal wars that they're creating are they're destabilizing not people only in the Middle East, they're destabilizing our own country and our American cities. So we will challenge the leadership of the establishment and the Democratic Party, and we're not gonna lend or vote for more wars to destabilize people in entire continents, in the Middle East, Latin America, Africa, or in American cities. This is the time to stand up for what Americans want us to do, is actually to put the issues of our American cities, of American people across the country before the agenda of the billionaire pedophile Nazis that are governing our country today.
So Byron, tell us about the dynamic of the race, right? So you've got a Democrat, you've got you as an independent, and I assume you're gonna have a Republican in the race. So between the three of you, obviously some people are gonna be worried about splitting the vote. Now, that drives me crazy, not in the splitting of the vote, but that talking point does. Because it's almost always followed up by a mainstream media anchor saying, hence, you should drop out and let the corrupt Democrat win. Because they assume that whoever the party anoints is the correct candidate. Despite overwhelming evidence of Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris not being the correct candidates, they still say that. So how is this gonna play out, you think, and how do you answer that question?
Well, I think, and I agree with you. I think that this notion that we have to allow the corrupt neoliberal Democrats to get into office just because we have to continue to go along to get along. I think in this race, in this 5-way race, It is clear that our community wants a fighter, someone who is fighting not only for democracy at home, but democracy abroad, that we are connecting the struggles that people are seeing for the first time, AIPAC and these billionaire pedophiles as a big problem, that we see the drones that are flying in Gaza now flying today in the 4th Congressional District, that we see the effects of masked individuals in Gaza or in Iran or in all neighbors. So I think that people in our district want someone who is going to fight for them, who is going to build coalition, not with the Democratic establishment, not with the Republican fascists, is going to build coalition with people across the country. Anyone willing to join this coalition of working people to fight the billionaire class is welcome. And I tell you that feel the energy across the suburban and urban areas. I feel the energy of people who want a leader who is going to fight and work to build that coalition and bring people to Congress. In this race, I think there's 3 independents. There's the Democratic anointment, and is the Republican nominee with very little visibility. This is a fight where the groundwork, when people on the ground, with our message, with our fight and our track record, more than anything else. I'm the only elected official who has been fighting for at least the last 7 years, fighting the billionaire class, fighting AIPAC, and show that we can win. I know that a ground game, and I think I tell you right now, our petitions, when they ask us to get over 11,000 petitions, when you are a Democrat or Republican, you only need 500 petitions. As an independent, we got to do 30 times that number. We will, because fighting on the field is shown in previous elections that we have had is the most important thing. Having door to door, attending and organizing people and organizing small donors. I feel very optimistic about Americans now seeing domestic and foreign policy for what they are. And what we want is to fight for the kind of world, the kind of society where we don't dehumanize and we don't negotiate anyone's humanity. We are ready to take on this and take this fight all the way to Washington. We fought in Chicago to fight this fascist regime, ICE agents and mercenaries trying to attack us. And now we want to take all this fight to Washington to show that American community or American neighbors all are united against the billionaire pedophile Nazi class.
So, Byron, tell us, you say you've been fighting them since you've been an alderman. Tell us what that means. How did you fight them?
Look, I think that it is very important to see people what they've done before they come into office. In our area, they have they have attacked communities like Chinatown. Trump, in his first term as office, he was calling the China virus. He was using bigotry and racism to dismantle entire communities, to create conflict and wars. And on the ground, the conflict and the hate crimes, especially against our Asian neighbors, was livid and was taking a toll. Many Chinatowns across the country have been decimated because of that. Here in our community, we've seen a Chinatown that is growing because of this coalition between neighbors. To show, we were so sad to see business owners, people in our community crying because people wouldn't come, people were afraid. We have battled fear with plans, with actions. Today, because of that coalition and that same support that now is part also of the 4th Congressional District, has now propelled a coalition that not only has made this Chinatown one of the only Chinatown in the country that is growing because of the support. A lot of those customers that came in were Latino customers who've seen and reflect on the immigrant story, who reflect each other as neighbors. We also have 5 big development. In my ward, we have the largest development in the city, a $10 billion development. We fought to make sure that we do not allow the big billionaire class to impose plans that never deliver. That we hear directly from the people. Today in our community, we continue to fight to have a welcoming community, to continue to be, we are a port of entry. I am so proud and I'm so proud to represent an immigrant working class community in the 25th ward, but also in the 4th Congressional District. And elections matter. Within the 4th Congressional District, because of this type of establishment politics, we have the lowest voting turnout in the whole Illinois congressional delegation. But the 25th ward in all the 4th Congressional District has the largest voting turnout. Elections matter, organizations matter. And as a result, in our community, we're building a large coalition that fought back to have the first ceasefire because our Palestinian brothers, sisters, and siblings are our neighbors, and we do not negotiate anyone's humanity. We do not despair, we organize. And in Washington, that's what we want to bring, a fight to ignite the souls and minds of many Americans. We're 350 million of us, and a very small number of pedophiles and a small number of Nazis trying to pitch us against each other. That is the oldest book, the oldest tactic in the book, divide and conquer. And today we have an opportunity. The emperor has no clothes. We see what's going on in the world. We see what's happening in Cuba, what's happening in Iran, in Gaza. This is our opportunity to organize and fight back. And Congress represents that opportunity to have a platform for a national fight so that we can put people over profit.
So there was a tough issue in Chicago. Some immigrants had come in and they were bused from Texas to Chicago, and a lot of the local residents were aggrieved, and they came to a lot of the public meetings and said, "Wait, how come they're getting money and we're not?" And so it was a real concern for the citizens in Chicago. So how do you navigate a tough issue like that?
Look, I think, and that's what I'm so grateful for many leaders in Chicago who understand that the unity among working people is fundamental to fight back. As you know, the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, a convention that was run by the likes of Rahm Emanuel and Michael Sachs and Rahm Emanuel, people again who will continue to oppose the true big tent and continue to put the interest of foreign nations before our own. These are the people who are running the DNC and failed completely to acknowledge, this was complete sabotage against our city, and that they have very little sympathy with working people in our neighborhoods is nothing new. Remember, this is the same group of people who close schools in black communities, pitches our communities against each other, the Laquan McDonald and the cover up and so forth. So we understood that in our neighborhoods, we need to make sure that we understand what's going on, that a fascist governor like Abbott was sending people inhumanely. 2 children died in transit from Texas to Chicago, all to sabotage the Democratic Convention. And what we did is organize our community. Today, I tell you that they try to pitch the Venezuelan community against the Mexican community, or the black against the Latino community, and so far. So we understood that we needed to do this work on the ground, inform residents about what's going on. In fact, City Council tried to censure me because I spoke about the dangers of having a DNC without a plan, without understanding that they will come with sabotage. And because of that organizing, we expose that this, the genocide in Gaza, the interest to sabotage your city and to push black and brown residents to the city, out of the city, it is part of the same struggle. So today, I think that we have built a lot of unity. You saw that in the response of Chicago against Trump, when they came in and they brought Dr. Phil to try to film the division, the chaos that they were expecting. They were frustrated, and after months, they were saying, well, Chicago is well organized and well informed. They know their rights. So then this is what, after they had to come with their mercenaries to break the law, to violate the Constitution and to terrorize our community, violating the Constitution and the law. So organizing and people on the ground, foots on the ground, informing, political education in our community and building that coalition, that's what will never betray the black community. There's a history in our city. We got Chairman Fred Hampton. We see many, Mamie Teal. There's a long legacy, Reverend Jesse Jackson, a long legacy of civil rights movement in our city. And we as immigrants, as people in our city, understand, appreciate, value, and we add ourselves to this coalition.
So I understand all that. And so Texas puts you in a difficult situation for sure. All the injustices that you talked about surrounding that are true. Now, having said that, still, what do you say to the citizens of Chicago who are still mad about it and say, look, how come we don't get anything? So that's a tough thing to answer. And I'm not sure I know what the right answer is, but how do you talk to those citizens? What do you tell them?
Look, I think that's what understanding that we are in a global fight. what happens abroad. I mean, that's what we talk about. In this real, the issues in Chicago are real. The systemic racism, the neglect, the disinvestment that we see in our cities. 300,000 Black residents left the city. But they left because of these neoliberal policies. That's what we say, that neoliberal corruption paves the way for fascist corruption and genocide. So that's what is so important, that we talk to people about what will we do with these billions of dollars that are going to war. What do we do? What do we do with like the billions of dollars that are going to Iran? That's what I mentioned very specifically. These billions of dollars, $50 billion that are going for bombing innocent little girls in Iran that could use to fund pre-K in our American cities. That's what we said. The lack of investment in housing. It is not because of the immigrant neighbors who've been displaced from Venezuela or Mexico or Africa or Haiti for that matter. This is because the billionaire, a handful of billionaire and oligarchy that owns our country, that have decided that they will rather pay masked individuals that funding Medicare for all. They will pay rather for people to disappear and concentration camps rather than green social housing. For instance, in our city, green social housing is a reality. We put, as a city with all our challenges, we put $125 million to create green social housing, to tackle the issues of the environment and also to create housing options for our neighbors. And we continue to fight to tax the billionaires and millionaires in despite of all the challenges, so that we see that we have a lot more in common between our neighbors than the billionaire class that right now are even hiding the Epstein files. So connecting these dots, connecting these struggles, and showing that yes, it is possible that we can have housing as a human right. We are the richest country in the world, and we should not allow now people in Tennessee, huge lines of people just trying to get some kind of medical care. We should not normalize that in our country.
Yeah, Byron, last thing. So Chicago also historically has had a significant crime problem, right? So what is your progressive or otherwise solution to that crime problem?
Look, and we've seen the results, and we've seen the good results in investing in young people. We had the largest program of youth employment in the country. Over 33,000 young people that are being employed. We have also made sure that we provide shelter, for people, that we have invested in stability. We have today in our ward, right, an intake facility so that we can help people with housing stability. A lot of the issues of violence are issues of disinvestment. So we show that we can address the issues of violence by investing in people, investing in our young people, creating a stability. There's a lot of studies that show the connections between evictions and housing insecurity. We have 20,000 young kids in CPS, unhoused or in stable housing. We show them by providing housing. I'm the chair of the Housing and Real Estate Committee. And we just last week invested another $300 million to provide over 1,000 units of truly affordable housing in our city. But there's a lot more to be done when we invest in young people, when we invest in the root causes of violence. We actually have reopened mental health clinics that not until long ago we have been doing town halls with people so that we can learn of what people need in our community, investing in youth employment programs, in housing, in employment, so that we can get people back on their feet. And we see a reduction of 30% in the chronic homicide violent incidents in our city. But imagine if we start divesting from genocide states and investing more in these solutions, mental health, education, housing. We know that we can really tackle those issues, but we cannot do it alone and not do it in a bubble. So that's what we need to keep taxing the billionaire. We need to tax the billionaire class so that we can fund programs like in our city. For instance, we have a very creative program, Love City, when our young people are learning how to become not only actors, actresses, but producers, right? So there are a lot of creative programs that are giving great results, but we will not be able to do more of that when our government is taking more and more money to wars and violence and armed dealers. So our city is doing some good work, but there's gotta be a lot more to do. State, federal, and local municipalities, there's a lot we can do to save people's lives and to prevent the mass shootings that we see every week in our country. There's a lot more that we can do to get to the root causes of violence.
All right, Alderman, what's your website?
BSL, B as in boy, SL for Congress.com.
All right, we'll put that link down below in the description box as well if you're watching this later. Byron Sigcho Lopez, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity, Jen. Great to be here.
And appreciate the passion he's got. All right, guys. So bonus episode now coming up for our members. What did I hear from students at some of the top colleges in the country? What did they have to whisper to me when they saw me? I'll tell the members that. If you want to join, hit the join button below on YouTube or tyt.com/join. I'll see you there in a minute.